And now,
welcome to Financial Issues with Shanna Burt, where we join reality with truth, helping you to make the most of your money by honoring God with your investments. Now, here's your host, Shanna Burt.
Good Thursday morning. It is May 9th, 2024. And if you're watching, again, sorry for just the picture.
Almost there.
we're doing our best to get those video issues worked out, but you can see Seth. So.
And I am sorry if you have to look at me. No, I'm kidding. It's good to be here with you all this morning.
Good stuff. So you can go about, doing your business and just listen if you want to today.
Yep.
So here at Financial Issues, we're a stewardship ministry, and we encourage you to defund darkness and to fund the light. Defund darkness is biblically responsible investing. If you are a partner, make sure you pay attention. We have sent out a couple of alerts recently. If you're not getting them in your email, go to the partner side of the website, log in and look at the alert section. There is one sale that we have issued recently that is for a company that is no longer biblically responsible. I will just tell you who it is. If you're not a partner, consider this a freebie. It's AMD. They're a semiconductor company. Yes, they have done really well. Are we going to let that stop us from selling them? No, we are not, because biblically responsible investing is a conviction of the heart. So our hearts are to honor God above everything else, even if it means having to sell a well-performing stock. So not only are we asking you to sell it, but we're also asking you to sign our petition. It is a petition you can find on our website. Seth, you want to tell them where?
Yeah, go to folksfinancialissues.org, scroll down a little bit, financialissues.org, scroll down and click sign the petition. You click that button, it'll take you right where you need to go and join that petition. Hundreds of people have signed this already, so join the throngs and make your voice heard.
Yep. So you can go there, you can read what it says and why we're asking you to sell the company. And then we're going to, once we get all these signatures on here, hopefully we get thousands and thousands of signatures, and to let this company know, if you're doing this because you really believe in supporting abortion and alternative lifestyles, then good riddance. But if you're doing it because you're being pressured by some left-wing organizations, you need to know that there's some people on the opposite end of this spectrum that are offended by these decisions. We do not want to be part of supporting these dark agendas. And would you mind just making semiconductors and staying out of the culture war? So we'll send that to them once we collect all the signatures that we can.
Yeah.
And if you don't own individual stocks, you may still own this particular company. If you want to find out, we have a free screening tool on our website. It's called the Evaluator, where you can screen your mutual funds and your ETFs. Just go to financialissues.org, click on the Resources tab, go down to Evaluator, and then you do have to put in your email address. Don't worry, we don't sell that or use it for anything else. They allow you to have so many free ones in a certain amount of time. So you can punch in the symbol to your mutual fund or your ETF, and you can find out if that mutual fund is clean or not. Our stewardship verse today, Psalm 34:4, I sought the Lord, and he answered me and delivered me from all my fears.
Yeah, that's good, Shanna. We talk often a lot on the show, and we see in the scriptures, we're reminded not to fear, but it's a hard thing. It's difficult for sinful humans to do this. Far often, we're much like Peter in the storm, where he was called out by Christ, who was on the water, come to me, and Peter walked towards him, and then he took his eyes off Christ, and he looked at the wind and the waves around him, and he started to sink. And we do that so often in this life as well. But the antidote to fear, Shanna, is confidence in God, trust in his plan, a daily commitment to throw ourselves into his merciful hand. It's really trusting that he's good and that he knows what he's doing. And I think if we can do that, we won't be controlled by fear.
It sounds so easy, but
it sure does.
God knew it wouldn't be easy for us not to fear, or else he wouldn't have said it 365
That's right.
times in the Bible.
Yep.
So, only God has the ability to deliver us from all of our fears, but the government is trying. The government is offering more and more safety net benefits, this universal basic income, promoting acceptance and the normalization of the LGBTQ lifestyle, and then trying to push the agenda of getting gender dysphoria, quote unquote, gender dysphoria classified as a disability. Then the government gets them on the government payrolls as disabled, and they have excuses to increase taxes, to distribute the wealth, as you hear the left often saying, to just collecting it from people that are working, paying taxes, redistributing it to the people that they've deceived into becoming dependent on them. What we have to remember that only God is good. Only God can meet every need that we have. If we believe God's truth about who we are and what we were made to do, that we were made male and female, that we were made with a specific purpose, and we trust God alone for our protection and provision, then we become slaves to Christ, not slaves to the government.
Amen. I wish that for all of us. That's good, Shanna. Speaking of fear, I think it's a good segue into today's topic, which really centers around weathering the ups and downs of the market. It's something we talk about on the show a lot, but I think it's good to spend some extra time on it. Shanna, you've been in the business for many years now. And you know that the United States stock market is about as calm as in January, your average blustery day on the North Sea. Just a nice peaceful day. No, it's volatile, and that's really a guarantee in the markets. And so successful investors have to be able to be steady and keep their eye on the long-term prize, which if you listen to the show often, you know that's steady growth and accumulation, of course, for the glory of God ultimately. So, Shanna, you've mentioned before that fear and greed tend to be the driving factors behind market volatility. How do these emotions actually play into the market and into the volatility that we see in the market?
Yeah. So volatility, the market's very volatile. You'll hear a lot of times that stocks over the last 50 years have averaged around 9%. So does that mean that that's a steady 9% every single year? Absolutely not. What you see is that the good years are far better than 9%. The bad years are far worse than 9%, even going into the negative. But the long-term averages end up, coming in around 9%. But it's very uncommon for you to see a 9% return or anything really anywhere around that. So what drives the market short term is fear and greed. Fear and greed are emotions, and we're cautioned in the Bible really to not make decisions based on our emotions because our hearts, our emotions can't be trusted. Yeah. What drives the market long term is earnings. It's the boring stuff. It's the things that are reported, every quarter by a company saying we made money or we didn't make money. A lot of times in the short term, it's emotions, fear and greed, like if companies miss their earnings, expectations, not even what they may have guided for, but what analysts were expecting them to make. So long term, it's, is a company reporting consistent earnings? Are they being successful in their business model? Or, the economic conditions right? Is the political governing parties, are they staying out of the private markets in a significant way and letting the markets, do what they do, because the markets are way more efficient than the government.
Yeah, and Shanna, as you're talking about that, it just made me think of the news cycle and all the different things that we see. You mentioned earnings reports, whatever the Fed says, all that stuff seems to have an impact on market volatility. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, inflation, jobs, et cetera, all of those metrics are reported monthly usually, and that influences what the Fed will do with rates because the Fed has a dual mandate. Price stability, which means keeping inflation from going out of control, and stable employment. I hear the music.
Yeah. We'll have to take a break. We'll get to the rest of that answer later on. Folks, again, if these conversations we have spark questions in you, please ask them. Call into the show. You can use the chat function as well. We'll be back with more financial issues right after this. Stick with us.
The miracle of carrying a child creates a unique bond between a mother and her unborn baby. She feels the baby's movements and responds to their needs even before birth. Help create that bond between an abortion-minded mother and her unborn child by giving the gift of life through Preborn. During the month of May, you can bless your mom for Mother's Day by giving to Preborn on your mother's behalf. For $28, you can sponsor an ultrasound scan that will enable an abortion-minded woman to hear the heartbeat of her baby. 90% of the time, that sound will change a woman's mind and cause her to keep their baby. Give the gift of life to the woman that gave you life by sponsoring an ultrasound. Go to preborn.com/FISM to give. That's preborn.com/FISM. You can help an abortion-minded mother receive discipleship, encouragement, and the strength needed to have her baby.
There are moments in life that define us. Choices determine the courses we take. Choices that create life, or those that save a life. And some make life worthwhile. There are decisions to stay or to go, to remain the same or to grow. Sometimes we pray and make peace. Other times we take a stand for what we believe. In celebration, mourning, triumph, and defeat, we are invested in every decision we seek. Despite differences, we have one thing in common: the desire to do all for the glory of God. Keep your wallet aligned with your heart and your investments in harmony with your faith. Timothy Plan, biblically responsible mutual funds, ETFs, and retirement plans. Before investing, carefully consider a fund's investment objective, risks, charges, and expenses contained in the prospectus available at timothyplan.com. Read carefully before investing.
Good to be here with you on Financial Issues, folks. We're talking about the volatility of the market, which is something that we talk about often on the show. It's an important thing, but it's most important for us to be able to have really a steady, steadfast outlook here and to understand that in a long-term strategy, the market is going to go up and down often. And Shanna, right before the break there, we had talked about kind of this idea of how the news cycle, particularly earnings reports that you, as you mentioned, as well as basically whatever the Fed says, what these have in terms of the impact on market volatility. Could you speak to that a little bit more? How can we be aware of these things as they happen and as they impact the markets?
Mm-hmm. So we're in the midst of earnings season right now, and, you know, companies report every quarter, and there's analysts that follow these companies very closely, so they have ideas of what their expectations should be, and management also does seem to give some forward guidance every time they report about what they're looking for the, for the full year, for the next quarter, so on and so forth. So when they miss expectations, that can really influence their stock price. And you may see other similar companies that haven't reported yet fall in sympathy, or maybe because investors think that all companies in that particular industry are going to experience kind of the same thing. We also get the jobs reports out monthly. We get inflation. We get several different inflation reports out monthly. And that's going to, we believe, influence what the Fed does with interest rates. So the market is what we call a leading indicator. If the Fed raises rates, then that typically means that economic activity slows. This business cycle has been a little bit odd, and that's my opinion, because of all of the money that Congress keeps spending and injecting into the economy. It's taking the wind out of the sails of what the Fed can do with interest rates. So if the Fed raises rates, that tends to put the brakes on the economy. Layoffs tend to increase. Companies make less money. And the market is always trying to get ahead of that. So, just because stocks sell off because the Fed does something doesn't really change what the company has just done and what they're currently doing. The market is thinking, or investors are thinking, that something is coming. So they're trying to get out ahead of time. And, I don't think we really want to be led by our emotions. We don't want to be short-term traders because guess what? A lot of times they're wrong, and then they're having to try to find an entry point back into the same thing that they just sold.
And, Shanna, that brings up another question. I know most investors probably aren't biblically responsible investors because many of them don't know about what BRI investing is. That's why we're trying to get the word out about it. But are there a lot of investors who are like us in the sense that they are long-term and they understand that the market goes up and down? Or are they, like most of the world, just caught up in the news cycle and just kind of tossed about this way and that? What do you think?
I think most individual investors would be considered pretty long-term investors. I think most people that are participating in their 401k, they're just, they're signed up. It's automatic. The money comes out of their check. It goes into their investments. They only get their statements every month or every quarter. So they're not, they're not looking at it every day. And, they know that they've got a lot of time to retirement, and hopefully they understand that if they're adding money in on a regular basis, if the market goes down, volatility is their friend because they're getting the same thing that they were buying, just at a lower price.
And then, Shanna, what about this idea of hedges of protection against market volatility? Are there any that you can think of that are available to us, not just monetarily, but also emotionally too? Like how do we protect our money, of course, but also how do we protect our hearts and guard our hearts against kind of falling in the trap of watching the news cycle and seeing what happens and making a reactionary decision there?
Well, it reminds me of a scripture.
Yeah.
Those whose eyes are fixed on Christ will be kept in perfect peace. So, it all depends on what your focus is on. If your focus is always on your money, well, you're going to be nervous. You're going to be anxious. Yeah. You're going to see, you're going to see things that make you lose your peace. But if your eyes are focused on Jesus, then you're going to keep your peace. So we always have to keep in the forefront of our minds what is really important. Scripture tells us to seek first the kingdom of God, and all of these other things will be added to us. So if we're always thinking about Jesus, about how he protects us, how he loves us, how we can please him, how we can honor him, then we're far less focused on our 401k or our brokerage statements.
Yeah. And it's not only true, Shanna, when we see the market down, but also when we see it up as well. And that brings up a question of what are some things we can remember, some kind of time-honored things whenever our portfolio is doing really well or when it's in a tailspin. What are some things that we need to remember to keep us steady, whether it's good or bad?
I mean, if your time horizon is far out, you just have to remember whatever you're seeing is just on paper.
Yeah.
And it can change. If it's up, it can go down. If it's down, it can go up. And, no matter if it all goes away, God takes care of his children.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. What about our strategy? Would it ever change during extreme highs or extreme lows?
It could, but not necessarily because of the highs or because of the lows. There could be reasons for as long as I've been, following the strategy, and from what I've heard Dan say even before I knew about the strategy, he's never been 100% in cash, the strategy for the ministry. And I don't know that I would anticipate it being 100% in cash. I mean, if we end up with high inflation and we end up with interest rates like we saw in the 70s and 80s with CDs at 15%, well, we're going to go a lot heavier into that type of investment. We might even try to lock in some longer term things at that rate. But the asset allocation models can and do change based on things that we see with demographics, things that we see happening in the economy. But you have to remember that if you get out, you have to be right twice. You have to be right when you get out, and you have to be right about when you get back in, or if you get back in. And if you get out, where are you going to go? You have to have that planned out as well.
Yeah. Last question for you here, Shannon, before we get to some partner questions. How do we plan for the worst? And I know this is a question that a lot of people ask. They wonder, their minds go automatically to worst case scenario. How do we actually plan for that while also keeping our eyes on the prize and understanding that the worst might not happen and just trying to weather those storms? What would be your thoughts there?
Well, what is the worst case scenario?
I guess right. Like wondering if the market crashes in a few years or if it crashes tomorrow. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, you really have to ask yourself, what is the worst case scenario, and does it really matter in the big scheme of things? I mean, I think one day with the way that our society is going, with the way that our government is going, with the way that inflation and all of these things combine in together, I believe what it says in the Bible. We're headed towards a one world government. There's going to have to be something that happens that causes everybody to give up control over their financial lives to a one world government. And it's going to have to be something really bad. And the scripture tells us that if we're here during a certain period of time, we're not going to be able to buy or sell. So, at some point, what's in your 401k, if that happened tomorrow, if you can't buy or sell, it means that you don't have any money. And we just have to trust that God is in control and he takes care of his kids. And he will make a way for us one way or another. So, I guess that's kind of the worst case scenario. That's probably only going to happen once, and then you won't ever have to worry about it again.
That's right. And that'll be a good sign for those of us who know Christ that glory's coming soon. Glory's coming real soon, and it's not going to matter then.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, there'll be other times when you'll see dramatic downturns in the market. They've happened periodically, and historically the market's always recovered. There will come a day, I believe, that when the market doesn't recover, but it's going to be a whole new era, and you're really going to you'll really be tested to see how much your eyes were on Christ and how much your eyes were on your money.
Well said there, Shanna. Moving to some partner questions here. We got David is asking about E47. This company merged with Exxon. His E47 shares were converted to Exxon, and he couldn't find Exxon on the buyer broad list. He assumes that it's non-BRI, or at least the fundamentals are not conducive. What would you recommend, Shanna, for selling his position now? He just wanted to confirm before pulling the trigger, and he's 66.
Yep. So your first assumption was right. ExxonMobil is not biblically responsible. A sell alert has been issued for that. So if you had those shares, we had a note on PXD for a while. We've known that this was coming. We just didn't have an exact closing date. So we anticipated that we would sell when it finally did happen. It's happened. A sell alert's been issued, and that's an easy question. Thanks.
Yeah, good. Eugene's the next one here, Shannon, just as a comment. So he's a longtime partner, longtime listener. He's an over-the-road trucker, and he remembers Dan always said freight tonnage was an economic indicator, and he believes that's true. Loads for truckers are way down in the last year, and when there's a load, the pay per load is also down. Truckers are now sitting idle much more, and many are actually turning in their trucks. Truckers are. There's a lot of company job openings. Company job openings for drivers are actually way down. Could be a sign of the times here. Good stuff from Eugene there.
That is good. It's good to hear from the boots on the ground and, of what's happening. And it's a real reversal of what we saw during COVID and a little bit post-COVID, as there weren't nearly enough drivers to get the supplies where they needed to go. So, good. Thanks for weighing in, Eugene. And that is one of the reasons that we did, and I'm sorry, I don't even have the call number for it, but we did issue a sell for a trucking company. So if you're a partner, you're going to want to make sure that you get over to the partner page and find out what that is.
Absolutely. Let's squeeze one more in here, Shannon, before the end of the segment. Kristen has a Roth IRA, $170,000 of equities left. Put down $10,000 as a lawyer retainer for his son. Probably will owe another $20,000 to $30,000. Has $184,000 mortgage at 2.25%. Gets military pension, Social Security. Should she liquidate or try to get a loan here? She's 70. What do you think?
You're probably not going to like my answer, Kristen. Well, it reminds me of Proverbs 22, train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. So my answer is really, I think it's time probably that you trust God with your son, to let your son stand on his own It may not be an easy thing to accept, but we have to learn how to trust God. God takes care of us. He's going to take care of your son. And we have to allow our children the opportunity to seek God on their own rather than coming to their rescue every time. You might deprive your son of a great opportunity to find God. Well, folks, we've got to run.
When it comes to handling money, I'm lost. How to save, when to invest, where to invest. As a Christian, I don't want to give my money to people who are going to use it for things God hates. When I discovered financial issues, it was like a burden was lifted off my shoulders. Not only did I gain access to a simple investment strategy that I can manage myself, I also have the peace of mind that my money will not be going to companies that actively promote things that God hates.
Invest your money in a God-honoring way. Go to financialissues.org.
You know, folks, the bond between a mother and her child during pregnancy and childbirth lays the foundation for a lifelong connection characterized by love, nurturing, and mutual support. And we're asking you to help us create that bond between an abortion-minded mother and her child by giving life through Preborn, giving that gift of life. During the month of May, help us place 100 ultrasound machines that will save babies over and over and over again. Go to preborn.com/FISM to give. That's preborn.com/FISM. Throughout the month of May, FISM is partnering with Preborn to fund the light by providing 100 ultrasound machines to pro-life centers around the country. Now, how can you contribute? Well, for as little as $28, you can provide an ultrasound scan to an abortion-minded woman in crisis. And when that woman hears the heartbeat of her baby, she will choose life, get this, 90% of the time. It's remarkable. And guess what? With the help of a donor match, for every 200 scans donated, that's for a net value of $5,600, Preborn Ministries will be gifted an ultrasound machine to place at a clinic in need. Each machine has the potential to impact hundreds of thousands of mothers' choices. Preborn also offers additional support to mothers in need and presents the gospel to every mother who comes into their clinics, knowing that salvation is the greatest gift that can be given to a mother and her child. So go to preborn.com/FISM to give. That's preborn.com/FISM.
Securities offered through G.A. Reppel & Company, a registered broker-dealer and investment advisor, member FINRA and SIPC. Opinions expressed by Shanna are hers alone and are for informational purposes only and do not necessarily represent those of G.A. Reppel or the outlet on which you are listening. You should consider how the information applies to your situation prior to personally implementing it and consult any financial professional you work with to make sure it's applicable to your financial plan.
Welcome back to Financial Issues, everybody. Great to be here with you today. Seth Udinsky here with you. Hey, we got a special guest here on the program today. A dear friend of the ministry, Matt Staver, who is, as you all know, the founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel, is doing some amazing things in regards to creating some curricula for children. Now, this is very, very important. This is entirely a stewardship issue, and so I'm thrilled and honored to be able to have Matt on the program with me today. Matt, good morning. It's great to have you on today.
Good morning. Good to be with you, Seth.
Yes, sir. Likewise. Now, let's begin here just as a quick intro here. Some of the most important action items that we need to know regarding Liberty Counsel's current legal battles. I know you guys are standing on the front lines for us in the Supreme Court and in other areas here. Bring our listeners up to speed on just what's going on, how Liberty Counsel is fighting for freedom in the courts, really quickly.
Well, we have a number of cases at the Supreme Court that we have filed amicus briefs on, including the January 6th issue, which I think is very significant for First Amendment free speech and the breadth of what this administration is doing to misapply federal law to stifle First Amendment activity. We also have a brief in this case regarding the Biden administration's coercing of social media platforms to censor messages and individual speakers that are raising significant First Amendment issues. And we also have some major pro-life cases that are pending at the United States Supreme Court, the emergency room issue with regards to abortions, and also the abortion pill mifepristone, among many other cases that we have pending around the United States as well.
Matt, I want to say from our listeners and myself, thank you for the work that you are doing and your team is doing on the front lines. We appreciate that so much. lc.org, folks, if you want to learn more about that. Let's switch gears here, Matt. We have a mutual dear friend, the Timothy Plan founder, Art Alley. Timothy Plan founder, Art Alley, came to us and informed us of some really good work that you and your team are doing right now to fight back against the DEI curriculum that is found in so many public schools today. I want you to tell us, what is Covenant Journey Academy and how are you doing to get this off the ground?
We're very excited about Covenant Journey Academy. It is a K through 12 online Christian academy. We have over 150 courses, all taught by certified teacher. The number of courses continue to expand. These certified teachers are also versed and trained and certified in integration of biblical worldview. In addition to our 150 plus courses of K through 12, we also have over 30 courses of college credit so that you can graduate with your high school degree and a 2-year Associate of Arts degree at the same time. So when you graduate, you're already 2 years into college. So you can start as a junior, you can take a gap year and then start the next year and then already still be 1 year ahead of all of your peers. It's an amazing opportunity, and it is available 24/7, 365, anywhere in the world. You can have your entire homeschool curriculum with Covenant Journey Academy, or you can supplement certain courses that your particular programs don't have. We have 6 foreign languages. We have a wide variety of sciences and math and a lot of specialty programs that you're not going to find anyplace else. And also private Christian schools and churches, for example, that don't even have a school. We have an affiliate program so that you can start your own school right there in your church, no matter how small or how large it is. Or if you have an existing school that's already in operation, you can supplement your programs with some of our programs at Covenant Journey Academy. So it is an amazing opportunity to change the future. We can't keep doing the same thing we've always done. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a Columbia University situation on a regular basis. And so CJA is really making a difference in not only this, but also future generations.
Matt, I don't know if I've shared with you and your team before, but I was homeschooled for all 12 years. I never went to a single second of public school. And so this idea is very exciting for me to get to hear about what you guys are doing. Let me ask you this. Why did you choose the name Covenant Journey? What is the significance of that?
Well, Covenant Journey is having a covenant with God, and it's a journey for life. So we have a motto or theme that the journey begins here and continues for life. It actually begins before kindergarten and continues not only through 12th grade, but Covenant Journey Academy also will develop in the future Covenant Journey Seminary, Covenant Journey Education, which we already have 250 courses. We just haven't deployed it yet, made that public, but we do have 250 courses already. And then Covenant Journey University long term. So your journey really begins here and continues for life. And that's one of the reasons why we have Covenant Journey Academy, and that Covenant Journey is part of our name.
It's awesome. That's so cool. Matt, what can you tell us here about kind of the need for why you felt the need to create a curriculum for students that's not woke, and particularly one in a biblical worldview? You know, there's a real present danger facing our students today in the public schools. And I'm not even talking about violence in public schools, of course, but I'm talking about, spiritual violence. I mean, they're being taught things that grieve the heart of God on a daily basis and really being force-fed these things. What can you tell us about this and how Covenant Journey is coming in as an answer to this for Christians who want to raise their children in the fear and admonition of the Lord?
Well, the scriptures say the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. The awesomeness and the understanding of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And when you educate without the foundation of the Lord, the knowledge of the Lord, that He created everything, you're actually creating a disservice. You're deconstructing what God ultimately designed, whether it's in math, spelling, science, whatever it is, music, all of that is created by God. So it is very important not only to get a quality education, which our programs do that, because it's online, we're able to actually do things in a better instructive pedagogical way than even in-person instruction can do. And then we also do that founded in a biblical Christian worldview. With Liberty Counsel, we represent, for example, Child Evangelism Fellowship nationally. One of the things that we've learned through CEF, which is the largest Christian ministry in the world, is that if you do a survey of adults, 85% of adults will say, if they were asked, that they gave their life to the Lord before the conclusion of their 13th birthday. So that 4 to 14 window, that K through 12, if you will, window is so critically important to the foundation of young people in our relationship with the Lord and in their worldview. So if we wait till they get to college, a lot of that nonsense has already been bred into their mind through this very woke LGBTQ indoctrination that they're getting for 12 years in school. And so, you know, like, for example, Columbia University, I know there's outside agitators, but basically those students are just out of high school. And where do they get that information? At Columbia? Yeah, certainly, but they also got it in their K through 12 education. Otherwise, they wouldn't be part of that nonsense on these various college university campuses. So that's why there's a huge need. There's a need because bullying is increasing, the LGBTQ indoctrination is increasing, the DEI indoctrination is increasing. We want to instill a high-level education that can be found no place else. And we want to do that in a biblical worldview. Let me just give you one quick moment.
Yeah, please.
We are educating young people right now in communist countries. That's very repressive. I won't say what country we're talking about, but very repressive countries. They're provided now with Christian education that they wouldn't otherwise be able to obtain. And these young people are excelling in Bible, excelling in their courses. And the families in those repressive regimes are sitting around the computer with their son or daughter, and they're participating in this education as well. It's an amazing transformation that we're able to export anywhere in the world, 24/7, 365.
And Matt, it's amazing to hear that you guys are doing it right at the grassroots level. You know, you had just mentioned what we're seeing at Columbia University and other places like that. That's actually the result of years and years, really, of being catechized by a godless worldview, right? And now you guys are
it didn't just happen.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then on the other hand, we've seen some other examples of students who have defended the flag, for example, and students who have not partaken in these. And that's an example of being catechized perhaps in the right way. I love to see that you guys are starting this where it matters most. I mean, I have 2 little children of my own, and they're both under the age of 5. And my wife and I have talked so much about how important it is that we're catechizing them in Christ now, because this is going to be so formative for those years later on down the road. And here at the ministry, we talk often about this idea of the law of reaping and sowing. And it really is true. I mean, you start that right out of the womb. You start that catechization process with your kids, and it just continues. And to see you guys doing this, man, it's really amazing. It really is.
Well, and sometimes we refer to this as homeschool without the hassle. In other words, that you may say, well, you know, I'd love to homeschool, I'd love to pull my son or daughter out of these public schools or even some of the private schools, but I don't have the expertise to do it. I don't have the ability to do it. Once they get up into the higher levels, I'm not versed in the certain math or science. Look, you don't have to wake up on Monday morning and wonder what the curriculum is going to be. It's already there. And so this is self-paced as well. Your son or daughter, they can go as fast as they want and move on to the next subject. They can't complete it quicker than 8 weeks, but they have up to 12 months to be able to complete that program. So they can go fast if they are very versed in that particular subject matter, or if they need extra time, they can go slower. They can self-pace at the morning, if mornings are better for them, or in the evenings. Some of them find that evenings is better for them for study purposes, but it's already there. It's already done. It's already turnkey. And we have the certified teachers to be there for your son or your daughter, your grandchildren, for these individuals in K through 12.
Matt, the last question here. I want you to tell us how we can learn more about this. How can parents learn more, grandparents? I'm sure we have a lot of listeners in our audience who have young children in their midst. How can they learn more and get more information?
They can go to Covenant Journey Academy's website. It's very simple, cj.academy. That's cj.academy. And we are launching right now for the first 300 people who enroll by July 1 some significant education discounts. So if you go there now, we'll have some really affordable pricing there as a result of a grant that we have received. And we're providing that to the first 300 families that enroll by July 1. So it's cj.academy, cj.academy.
Folks, go there right now, cj.academy. If you've got young children in your midst, a great place to go. Matt, we appreciate it so much. Thank you for the work that you are doing, both on the front lines of the legal battles as well as helping our children to know and love Christ. We appreciate it so much. Folks, we got more financial issues coming up right after this.
The miracle of carrying a child creates a unique bond between a mother and her unborn baby. She feels the baby's movements and responds to their needs even before birth. Help create that bond between an abortion-minded mother and her unborn child by giving the gift of life through Preborn. During the month of May, you can bless your mom for Mother's Day by giving to Preborn on your mother's behalf. For $28, you can sponsor an ultrasound scan that will enable an abortion-minded woman to hear the heartbeat of her baby. 90% of the time, that sound will change a woman's mind and cause her to keep their baby. Give the gift of life to the woman that gave you life by sponsoring an ultrasound. Go to preborn.com/FISM to give. That's preborn.com/FISM. You can help an abortion-minded mother receive discipleship, encouragement, and the strength needed to have her baby.
Are you new to biblically responsible investing? As Christians, we have the responsibility to be good stewards of the money God has entrusted us with. As we invest in the market, we want to make sure that the companies we invest in aren't taking money and using it to fund industries that grieve the heart of God, like pornography, abortion, gambling, or the LGBT agenda. That doesn't mean a company must be a Christian company to be biblically responsible. It means that company is solely focused on excellence in its industry and doesn't support things that God hates. To learn more about biblically responsible investing and how you can put it to practice in your portfolio, go to financialissues.org.
The mission of Financial Issues is to expose Jesus for all he is, all he means, and all that he can do.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Folks, hope you enjoyed that interview with Matt Staver there. Hey, I wanted to remind you of something here. Next week, Wednesday, May the 15th, please mark your calendars. Wednesday, May 15th at noon Central Time is our partner conference call, our May conference call. Make sure you join us, partners. Mark your calendars. Wednesday, May 15th, noon Central Time. If you're not a partner and you want to join that conference call, now's a great time to do it. Go to financialissues.org, click Become a Partner today. You'll get access to that conference call as well as all the different options that we offer for our partners, stock options, as well as the asset allocation models, portfolio tracker, those conference calls, as I mentioned, Ask Shanna, all available for partners. So make sure that you join us there. Again, Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, May the 15th at noon Central Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll send out an alert also with that, but just wanted to make sure that you all can mark your calendars for that. That conference call is coming up next week. All right, folks, we got the Ag Report coming here. We weren't able to get to it in that last segment. Farmers and ranchers, this is for you as well as anyone else who's interested in what's going on in the ag market today. Here's what Craig has to say about the Ag Report. Here it is.
This is Craig Howgard with your Financial Issues Ag Update for May 9th. Well, corn was pressured by very aggressive farmer selling in yesterday's trade. The weekly ethanol report showed a week-over-week decrease in ethanol production, while ethanol stocks fell sharply because of a solid export program. At the close, July corn was 8.5 cents lower at $4.58.5. Soybeans traded lower as we saw solid farmer selling as well as some technically driven selling enter the market. Now, in the export market, Brazil has roughly a 30 cents per bushel advantage over U.S. beans, and that also weighed on prices. At the close, July beans were 18 3/4 cents lower at $12.27 3/4. Wheat seems to have seen the short covering rally come to an end. Now, Russia still has issues, with 3 regions in that nation having declared a state of emergency because of crop damaging frost. On the other hand, the western portion of Kansas and the Panhandle are expected to get some decent rain over the next week, and that's really what the trade focused on in yesterday's session. At the close, Minneapolis July wheat was 16.25 cents lower at 7.02 3/4. Kansas City dropped by 15.5 cents to close at 6.48.5, and Chicago was down 8 3/4 cents, ending the session at $6.34 per bushel. Cotton futures had a great day with what will hopefully become a sustained rally. When the closing bell rang, July futures were up 256 points, settling at 80.06. Livestock futures were mixed. June live cattle futures were $1.15 lower at $176.47 per hundredweight. August feeder cattle dropped by $2.02, settling at $252.40 per hundred. And June lean hog futures were 40 cents higher, ending the session at $98.72.5 per hundredweight. Class 3 milk futures absolutely exploded yesterday. At the close, June futures were up 75 points as they settle at a new life of contract high of 2018. Well, this has been Craig Haugard with your Financial Issues Ag Update. We'll be right back with more financial issues after this.
That's today's Ag Report, folks. Let's take a look here at the markets. Yesterday, they continued their mixed trend. So by the closing bell, the Dow was the only one of the positive. It was up about a little less than 0.5%, adding to its win streak. It's now on a 6-day win streak. The S&P 500 ended flat. The NASDAQ ended about 0.1% in the negative. Oil finished the day up a little bit, $79.18 a barrel at the close. Oil is now sitting right around that same mark, $79 a barrel, so not much change there. The U.S. 10-year Treasury yields finished the day yesterday right around 4.4%. They're up to 4.5% now, so creeping back up a little bit. Meanwhile, the major indices began the day today in mixed territory as well. The Dow is slightly positive, the S&P slightly negative, and the NASDAQ down about 0.25%. So we got a couple earnings reports out that seem to push the market slightly in negative territory as we open the day today. All right, Elijah, I think we have time with what we have left to get to another few partner questions, at least one.
Yeah.
Let's get this one started here.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So we got Claude, and she's asking, what exactly is insider trading? How do we safeguard ourselves from this? Nancy Pelosi has beat all indexes in investment firms for years now. How does she do this? She's age 74. What do you think, Seth?
Good to see you, brother. Yes, Claude, you are in the chat right now. I can see you there, so hopefully this can be a blessing to you and anyone else who is wondering. Great question, man. And I see where you're getting at with Pelosi. All I'll say about that to not go down a rabbit trail that could be perhaps tricky with the time we have is where there's smoke, there's fire. It's very suspicious indeed to see what the Pelosi's have done with beating their indices and investment firms for years now. There was a headline recently about how Nancy Pelosi had sold a bunch of, I think it was her Apple stock or something like that, right before there was a probe, into Apple that caused the stock to tank. And you just got to wonder, boy, did they have some insider information there? It's a good question. But let's get to exactly what you're asking. Your first question, what exactly is insider trading? Well, insider trading is essentially the illegal practice of using access to confidential company information to make trades that are guaranteed to be beneficial. So it's basically when an investor has access to non-public information, and so he unfairly makes a trade based on this secret information. It's basically gaming the system. And functionally, it's cheating. It's actually compromising the fairness of the fair market. And so the punishment for insider trading, understandably, is pretty severe, actually. I've seen up to 20 years in prison you can get if it's egregious enough for committing insider trading. This is a really bad thing to do because it has a terribly negative impact on the money of potentially thousands or even millions of people. So it's similar to fraud in that way. So the punishment is pretty bad. And now I don't have hard and fast information on this, Claude, but I'll tell you this, sadly, I think insider trading, illegal insider trading happens a lot. And you had mentioned the Pelosi's earlier. They're probably not the only elected officials who have been at least suspected of having gamed the system before. I'll bet there's a lot out there, probably many people who do this successfully, unfortunately. And it is unfortunate because it's a crime, it's illegal, it's unethical, it's immoral, it's wrong. But people do it, sadly. So that's kind of what insider trading is. You know, I will say there is a legal form of insider trading where if you are an insider in a stock, if you own a certain amount of that stock that makes you an insider in it, you're allowed to trade that stock and you have access to information that's not privy to outsiders. But the SEC has specific guidelines that you have to follow in order for you to be able to do this in an ethical and legal way. So illegal insider trading absolutely is a sin. And this gets to your second question. It's cheating. It's cheating. It's dishonest. And we have to be on guard against this. And I think you're really wise, Claude, being on guard against this. It's a good thing, not only for the fact that you want to be protected legally and you don't want to go to jail, but also because you want to stand right before God. And I think that's really, really good. So according to the SEC, let me share this with you. An insider is a person who directly or indirectly owns more than 10% of a company's equity securities. So often insiders will be high-level directors, officers, principal stockholders who hold high positions at the company. Now, here are a few safeguards for you to think about, Claude, as you're thinking, because your last question was kind of how do we be on guard against this? A couple things for you to do, actually, is first, ask the question if you are an insider at any position that you might hold. So my guess is most of you probably aren't. The chances of you being one would be if you work for a company and you have shares of that company, and maybe you're high up in that company and you have a good portion of shares in that company. Again, more than 10% of the company's equity securities. If that is the case, then you would be considered an insider at that company. And it doesn't mean, again, that you can't trade those company stocks, but it means if you do it, you have to follow the guidelines of the SEC in order for it to be what's called legal insider trading, essentially. Make sure that you understand the rules. Those rules are found on the SEC's website. And Claude, I know you're in the chat right now, so I'm going to drop this link in the chat for you. It's a long link there, but those are the rules basically to follow according to the SEC to make sure that you don't get in trouble with the law if you are an insider at a company. Now, a good safeguard is actually to follow our strategy, because our strategy is one of well diversification. So if you're not following a company that maybe you work for, you're high level at, you should be well diversified enough that you don't need to worry about being overweighted in any one of these companies, which would make you free from the title of being an insider. So that would be a good thing. So if you follow our strategy, that's actually one way that you can safeguard from insider trading. The second thing to do, and really the third thing to do, I should say, because the second thing to do is make sure you understand the rules and the rules that are laid out by the SEC, of course. The second thing to do, and this is really important for you, Claude, is always do what's right. And this is like basic level Christian worldview, humanity 101, but always do what's right. Let's say, for example, that you're not an insider at a company, but you've been tipped off. You've been tipped off by someone who's high up at a company. Maybe it's a friend with insider information. Maybe you got a buddy or a family member who's a boss at a company and they told you, hey, I know you own this stock. Something's about to go down the next couple weeks. Maybe you should get out of it. You know, what that person is doing actually is also illegal. That's called tipping, and that's part of insider trading. If you act on that tip-off, you are actually then becoming complicit in the insider trade. What you have to do there is you have to wait for that insider knowledge to become public before making that trade. Now, the tough part with that is it might cause you to lose money, but it is the right thing to do. It's very important to do what's right. It's very, very important to do what's right, even if that means that you'll lose money. Your Father in heaven is going to be pleased with this. And I know this sounds like no duh, of course. We're a Christian show. You're going to say do what's right. This is so important, though. It is so much better to know that God is pleased with you and that your conscience is clear and you have less money than to get a little bit of money, a little bit more money at a time, put yourself in legal trouble, and then also knowing that you have sinned before God knowingly. And you need to repent of that. So much better to walk in righteousness, be faithful to God, better than all the money in the world. So your ultimate safeguard against insider trading is doing what's right. So in short, Claude, I think this is a biblically responsible issue. I really do. I think it's an issue of biblical responsibility. You don't want to dishonor God with your money at all, and insider trading is dishonoring God with your money. So it's far better to have less, but also to have a clean conscience before God. Hope that makes sense. Appreciate you all today so much. God willing, we'll do it again tomorrow. I failed to mention Bible study. We'll meet for Bible study tomorrow morning. After Bible study, of course, we'll be on live. Once again, Shanna will be on live as well. Remember, it's all His. It all belongs to the Lord. Let's be found good and faithful stewards with the money that God has given to us. God bless you all, and we'll see you tomorrow, Lord willing, for more financial issues.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us.